You're a change maker and you work with a lot of people who know how to talk the talk, but how many of them actually walk the walk? And how do you talk with the ones who are not walking the talk? Well, here, if what you're going through is a tremendous amount of frustration because you're working with leaders who don't realize that they're actually sabotaging the work, I completely understand you. I've been in the social justice arena for 20 plus years, and often people come to me and say to me, "Oh my God, she's driving me mad." Yeah, it's often a she, but it's not always a she. They're driving me mad because they fired the person who was competent, or they're micromanaging the people who are competent, or they're giving more power to those who understand the situation less than the people who actually understand the situation most. And they feel threatened when other people rise against them, or they feel threatened even just to have a person in the room that actually knows what they're talking about. And most of the time, it's someone with direct experience. So then what? I know what you tried. You tried simply talking to them, right? So what happens if you just talk to them? Well, oftentimes what happens is that they can't hear you. They either don't have enough time to talk, they refuse the meeting, or they sabotage the meeting, or they show up and they're so busy and their mind is so somewhere else that you are clear they are not listening to you. Oh my God, I feel your pain. I've been through this so many times before. I've consulted for organizations like this. I've worked with leaders like this. The first thing I want to say is send them to me. Send them to me. I'd love to work with them, because chances are that many people in the social justice arena, many change makers, are so terrified about rocking the boat or so terrified about underperforming that we don't realize when we're actually sabotaging the work. And yes, I say we because there were times where that person was me. I didn't realize that I was like driven by fear. I didn't realize that I was driven by fear of losing my reputation, by fear of not proving myself, by fear of not being enough. And when you don't realize that you're operating from fear, the work will be sabotaged each and every time. Because social justice work requires courage. It requires courage in the tough times. It requires courage in the good times. It just requires a lot of courage and love and connection. And we know that our society isn't built for that. So what do you do with people who just can't listen to you and are absolutely sabotaging the work, especially if it's your supervisor or someone who is above you? If left uncontrolled, the work will decline. Like oftentimes these things make organizations less effective. So eventually the results are no longer there, the money starts running out, or the team starts leaving. And for you personally, you'll get burned out to the point where you either feel like you're gonna risk getting fired or you're gonna have to leave because it's just gonna be at some point too much. So how do you talk to these people? Like, how do you actually get through to a person who seems to not want to be gotten through to? Here are 3 tips. I'm Dr. Rita. I'm a social justice consultant and coach, and I've worked in the arena of social justice for over 20 years. And part of what I do with people I coach and organizations is to kind of help shift the culture and the way fear is driving their actions. So this is one of the ways, these are some of the tips about how you can get someone to actually pause so that they can hear you and listen to you and listen to what you have to say. So in my study around social justice, and in particular, what kind of sabotages our work, 2 things get in the way the most. The idea of the lack of time and rushing, and the idea of having to prove ourselves. So basically it's this not enoughness, not enough time, not enough money, not enough connection. And so one of the things that you can do to help a person pause when you talk to them, instead of just talking about the specific circumstance that happened, pay attention to when they are actually aware that they're overrun and out of breath. And as soon as you see that they have like a moment to realize, oh my God, I'm really tired, Try to get in there and go, hey, yeah, it does look like you need some rest. Are you going to get some rest this weekend? Like, what's going on in your world? What do you think? Like, how are you restoring? Because you seem like very, very stressed lately, and I'm a little concerned for you. So not shaming them for it, but try to get in their world and help them see or share with them that you can see that they're stressed and overwhelmed. That's number one. The second thing I recommend is reminding them that in history, social justice results were never achieved alone and were never achieved short term. Basically, the social justice goals that you're setting for yourselves all need long-term investment, and long-term investment requires long-term effort, which means we can't just burn out. We have to be able to pause and restore and recuperate and regenerate. So one of the things you can ask them is, like, remind them that in history, nothing got achieved in a vacuum and that it never got achieved alone. Individuals always had organizations behind them. And so the question really is, okay, how are they leveraging their team? How are they leveraging their personal power? How are they restoring personally? How are they leveraging their team? How are they regenerating collectively? That's the second part of this, how to talk to them in a way that they can hear. The third point is, in order to achieve social justice results, we have to have a social justice strategy. Systems tend to resist change, be opposed to change, and so we have to be really, really clear about how we go about it. And being clear about how we go about it means being clear about what is our strategy. Where are we starting? Where do we want to land? Who are our friends along the way? Who are the people we can count on? What are we listening for? That means building an actual strategy. So one of the things that you can say to a person who seems to be running around like a chicken with their head cut off is to invite them to pause and ask them, what is their strategy? And do they have enough people in their corner to actually fulfill on that strategy? Or do they need support to even create a strategy? Chances are that person is operating a very reactive mode. Something happens, they react. Something else happens, they react. Something else happens, and they react again. That constant reactivity doesn't foster real movement building. That constant reactivity cannot be strategic. So there you go. There are my two tips for trying to talk with people who are operating in the work without walking the talk, just like good words, but then in the end, when it comes to decision making, they are all over the place. Oftentimes they are rushed for time and they're stressed. So the first thing to address isn't actually how they fired the person they didn't need to fire, how they need to stop micromanaging the person that doesn't need micromanaging. It's getting them to pause, because their lack of delegation and their lack of pause is what's making them not delegate appropriately. I hope that's helpful. Again, send these people to me. Like, I would love to coach them. I've known this to happen so often. I've met so many leaders who do this to themselves. We overwork ourselves, we do too much, and then as we're overworking ourselves and doing too much, we actually compromise the work. We believe we're self-sacrificing for the work, but we're actually compromising the work. I know what that's like. I've worked with leaders like that before. I can help them come back to a place of center so that things can turn around, and mainly because I've had to do that with my own self. And what's possible instead, in the presence of a leader who is present and does their self-care and does their homework and is constantly aware of their boundaries and their limitations, what becomes possible is that they are able to be more present for themselves. And as they are more present for themselves, they're able to be more present for you as a worker, but they're also able to be a lot more present for the work. How we do the work matters. We know this. How we do the work matters. I invite you to look out for additional solutions. And one of the things you can do is take the social justice persona quiz that I came up with. And it's specifically designed for change makers so that you can get a better sense of what your strengths are and who are the best people to partner with. Sometimes you can understand from it also why you're not communicating with the people you're already working with. So take the social justice quiz. It's down in the comments. It's down in the description. And good luck with your social justice goals, and good luck and thank you for your service in creating a world that's better for us.